Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be continuing on with our SwiftUI tutorial series, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be taking a look at how we can make our lists searchable in SwiftUI using the Searchable modifier. Now, before Searchable came around, we used to have to create our own search bars and put them in like the toolbar or above the list in a form or VStack or something like that, depending on what our user interface called for. Or we would just have to suck it up and use a UI view controller representable type view in SwiftUI to reach down to UIKit and do it the UIKit way. But now that we have the searchable modifier, that's no longer necessary. All right, so searchable has been around for at least a couple of years. It wasn't around initially, of course, as I just stated. So it's new-ish to SwiftUI. If we open up Safari, right, and we say searchable modifier, Apple developer documentation, that's not quite what I wanted. Let's see here. All right. Okay, there we go. This is at least one of the searchable modifiers that we can use. There's many versions of it. But if we take a look at the availability, the searchable modifier has been around since iOS 15. Right, so it's a couple years old, but it's not like so it's kind of like in the middle of SwiftUI so far, because SwiftUI is only 5 years old, right? So it's kind of middle-aged right now. But if we go back into Xcode here, we can go ahead and begin learning how to use this modifier. The first thing that we're going to need is a state variable to hold the search text, because searchable gives us a text field to type in to search our list. So we need that state to be able to update everything. So right inside of our struct here, we're going to say at state private var. We'll call it search term. We'll give this an initial value of an empty string. All right. Now, the next thing we're going to need is a computed property to filter out all of our items based on the search term. This is one approach, at least, but there are other approaches, such as having a different view that contains the list and then putting that inside the body of say, the content view and have the searchable modifier attached to that view and then pass the search term on through the initializer, that kind of stuff. That is one way you can do it, but we're going to do it this way to not have to create more views than we have to. At least for a simple example. So we'll say var filtered devices. This is going to be an array of device. And inside of here, we will have a condition. So we'll say if search term dot is empty. So if the search term is empty, we simply want to return constants dot devices. So return the entire data set in full. Otherwise, we want to return constants dot devices dot filter $0 dot name dot contains search term. All right. So we'll do a return there. And then we'll have that return there. All right. So there is our computed property, which, again, to review, we're seeing if the search term is empty. If it is, then we simply want to return the data set in full because we don't have anything, we don't have a search term entered. Then if the search term is not empty, we want to filter out anything based on whether the name of the device contains the search term. All right. So now let's go into our inside of our list here. And instead of constants.devices in our for each, we'll say filtered devices. And there we go. Pretty simple stuff so far. On our list, we're going to attach a searchable modifier. So dot searchable. Now this takes in a binding to some kind of string state as its text. So we'll say $search term. All right, and that's all we really need to do for the searchable modifier. You can enter a custom prompt like this. So prompt And this is entirely optional. It's a text view, so we'll say text search for a device. And you can also have a placement, so where you want your search bar to be placed. We'll leave that alone, and I'll let you experiment with that a little bit. The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to display some kind of message to the user if if there was nothing found for their search term. And for this, we're going to use the overlay modifier and the content unavailable view. So the overlay modifier, it does exactly what its name implies. It creates it overlays a view that you return from its closure over the view that you're modifying. So in this case, it'll create a view overlaying our list. And we want this content unavailable view to only be visible if our filtered devices array is empty. Because if it's empty, there's no search results. And if there's no search results, we want to be able to let the user know what happened. So the user isn't staring at a blank screen, not knowing what happened. All right. So under searchable, we'll say dot overlay, like that. And then we'll say if filtered devices dot is empty. So if filtered devices is empty, we want to return a content unavailable view dot search. And in here, we need to give it some text. And this text is going to be what the search term was. So we'll pass it the search term. All right. So what this content unavailable view dot search is going to do is it's going to create a system, a view specifically to align itself with the look and feel of the system, where there's like a magnifying glass symbol and then no results for whatever your search term was. So it looks like it fits in with the system. You can create your own custom one. I'll leave it up to you to read the content unavailable view documentation I'll leave it up to you to look into that. It's actually really easy. But I want you to be able to get comfortable, with going out into the documentation and experimenting, trying to figure out, okay, how does this work? How does that work? Stuff like that. I'm not going to baby walk you, as I've said multiple times. So now that we have this all created, let's run our code. All right. So here is our app. So we have our list with all of our phones and tablets and all that. So here we have our text field. Inside of this text field, let's search for, say, mini. and it found only 2 devices. It found Mac Mini and iPad Mini. All right. But what if we say lowercase mac? You can see nothing happens because there's no device that contains Mac in all lowercase. And so now we have our content unavailable view being shown above an empty list. Right? So it says no results for Mac. And it tells you to check the spelling or try a different search. And that's all done for you by the system. There's nothing that you need to customize there unless your app design really calls for something custom. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like on iOS. All right. So we'll say iPhone 15 Pro Max. We'll build it. All right. So let's try rerunning this. I don't want to record the screen. Thank you very much. All right. So we'll try running that. Simulator is running. And so here is our list. However, you can see the searchable modifier isn't showing itself. Or rather, the searchable, like the search bar isn't showing itself like it is on macOS by default. So the way we get the search bar to show is, if I can find my cursor. Where is it? Okay, there it is. In our simulator, we need to scroll down slightly. And when you do that, then the search bar actually shows. All right. And there's our little text field. We can go ahead and search in there and say something like mini. And then we can see the iPad mini and the Mac mini. But if we say MAC in all lowercase, we do get some results. Let's go ahead and say something like, let's say Vision Pro. All right. So we can, let's see. Okay, so we can say Vision Pro, for example. And we get our content unavailable view. No results for Vision Pro. And just like on the Mac, it tells us to check the spelling or try a new search. All right, so that pretty much does it for this video on how we can make lists searchable in SwiftUI. Thank you all so very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.